Hi everyone, welcome back to the Comptia Network Plus course, VPN Concentrators. A VPN concentrator is a device that creates remote access for our virtual private networks, VPNs, either for users logging in remotely or for a large site-to-site VPN, in contrast to standard remote access connections. Remote access VPNs allow higher data throughput and provide encryption. Cisco produces VPN concentrators that must support anywhere from 100 users up to 10,000 simultaneous remote access connections. Encryption for a remote access VPN through a concentrator is usually handled by Internet Protocol Security IPsec or Secure Socket Layer SSL, and user authentication can be achieved via Microsoft's Active Directory, Kerberos Remote Authentication, Dial-In User Service, Radius, Rivest, Shamir, and Edelman RSA and digital certificates. Many VPN concentrators also have a built-in authentication server to allow ACLs to be implemented through them. In figure 15.15 you can see where VPN concentrators are usually placed within a network setup. The dotted lines indicate that you can opt to run your remote access clients through the firewall before they're granted internal access, or you can just let the concentrator handle the security. Understanding problems affecting device security. Throughout this whole chapter I've been going on and on about the myriad devices we use to secure traffic coming into our networks, and the devices and the things we depend on to detect and prevent attacks on them. It's an important subject and one you must solidly understand in order to be effective in networking. Knowing how to implement a tight security program requires working knowledge of these devices, but it doesn't end there because there's always more you can know. There happen to be a few more really significant and valuable concepts you should have a good grasp of when setting up and managing the security on your network. So that's the direction we're going to head for the remainder of this chapter. We'll cover key issues you need to be aware of, including physical security and corresponding logical security structures and restricting access. Physical security. Over the years I've visited a lot of different companies, large and small, public and private, and analysed, advised, troubleshoot, designed and implemented their networks. Without fail, the systems administrators I've met along the way are really eager to tell me all about the security systems they have in place. Look at this awesome firewall setup. Check out the cool group policy structure we have. Watch how quickly our fault tolerance springs into action. They're very proud, and rightly so, of what they've worked so hard to set up, because doing this isn't easy. But interestingly, one of the few people brag about physical security like it's some kind of afterthought. Maybe the server room has a locked door, maybe it doesn't, maybe the badges that open that door are owned by the right people, or maybe they aren't. I guess that on a subconscious level we tend to inherently trust the people working within the walls and focus our fears, suspicions and ammo on mysterious outside forces that we're sure are increasingly trying to break in, steal data or totally murder our networks. Some of the sharpest, most talented and savvy administrators I've ever met still have a tendency to neglect inside security and fail to reasonably monitor things going on within the building. And there are some seriously vital things to nail down on the inside. For instance, does it really matter if your network has a secured subnet for the servers with its own dedicated internal firewall. Definitely, I've actually found servers in racks, like sitting ducks in a hallway right across from the lunchroom. When I pointed out the fact that this was not so good, I was assured that it was only temporary until server room construction was complete. I don't know about you, but for some reason that didn't cut it, and it didn't make me feel anywhere near okay with the situation. At another company, I found the door to the server room propped open because otherwise it would get too hot in there. Because the toasty server room didn't exactly have a guard posted, anyone could just walk in and do whatever. The backup tapes were clearly marked, sitting there on a shelf. Yikes. And don't even get me started about the heat. The bottom line is that if your system is not physically secure, you're basically sending out an open invitation to Pandora's box of problems without even realizing it. Physical barriers. Your first objective is to keep people from physically getting to your equipment. Clearly, end users need to be able to get to their workstations, but only authorized personnel should be anywhere near your servers. The best way to do this is to have a dedicated 2-stage air-conditioned server room with really secure doors and locks. Even better, your data center should have more than one form of physical security, preferably 3. We call that a multiple barrier system. For instance, you could have a perimeter security system controlling access to the building as your first line of defense. The second would be a secured door to the computer room, and the third would be another security door to the server room itself. This is illustrated in figure 1516. Security zones. Your network probably has different security zones. Let's say your servers are in one zone and the clients are in another. Maybe your engineering department has its own zone. So why not have the zones for physical access to the computers? Many companies today use RFID badges to control where employees are allowed to go inside the building. You may need a safety clearance and or certification before you can go in the room where the pilot production machine lives. People should be cleared and certified before they're allowed in the server room as well. Mantraps. A mantrap is a series of 2 doors with a small room between them. The user is authenticated at the first door and is then allowed into the room. At that point, additional verification will occur, such as a guard visually inspecting the person, and then they are allowed through the second door. These doors are typically used only in very high security institutions. This can help prevent tailgating. A mantrap design is shown in figure 1517. Network closets. While much of the network equipment should be locked securely in a server room, there are frequently cases where it is also stored in a smaller location or closets. If that is the case, these locations should be locked as securely as the server room, and access to them should be controlled through mechanisms such as cipher doors and proximity locks. Video monitoring. In many high security scenarios, it may be advisable to visually monitor the area 24 hours a day. When this is the case, it'll make sense to deploy video monitoring. We'll look at 2 options: IP cameras and CCTV systems. IP cameras. IP video systems are a good example of the benefits of networking applications. These systems can be used for both surveillance of the facility and for facilitating collaboration. CCTVs. While an IP camera is a type of digital video camera commonly employed for surveillance, analog closed-circuit television cameras are unable to send their images across IP networks. CCTV cameras record directly to mediums such as video, tape or hard drive. It is possible to convert the signal to digital in cases where you need to send it across an IP network. Door access controls. While Mantraps may justify their cost in some high security scenarios, not all situations require them. Door controls should be used to prevent physical access to important infrastructure devices such as routers, switches, firewalls and servers. Door control systems are covered in the following sections. Proximity readers, key fob. Proximity readers are door controls that read a card for a short distance and are used to control access to sensitive rooms. These devices can also provide a log of all entries and exits. Usually a card contains the user information required to authenticate and authorize the user to enter the room. A key fob, on the other hand, is a type of security token, a small hardware device with built-in authentication mechanisms. The mechanism in the key fob control access to network services and information. An advantage of a key fob is that it can support multi-factor authentication. For example, a user may have a personal identification number PIN which authenticates them as the device's owner. After the user correctly enters their PIN, the device displays a number that allows them to log on to the network. Biometrics. Biometric systems are designed to operate using characteristics and behavioral factors, while knowledge factors, password, PIN, or something you know are the most common authentication factors used. Characteristics factors represent something that you are, fingerprint, iris scan, while behavioral factors represent something that you do, signature analysis. Multi-factor authentication is achieved by combining authentication factors. When two factors are combined, such as a retina scan, characteristic factor, and a password knowledge factor, dual factor authentication is required. When three factors are combined, such as a retina scan, characteristic factor, a password knowledge factor, and signature analysis behavior factor, then multi-factor authentication is in effect. One of the issues with biometrics is the occurrence of false positives and false negatives. A false positive is when a user that should not be allowed to access is indeed allowed access. A false negative, on the other hand, is when an authorized individual is denied passage by mistake. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing and subscribing. Thank you.